What if your consciousness could evolve in ways you never imagined? Consciousness is this really weird idea that a lot of people argue about, but let's get down to the actual experience of it. Quantum science arguably discusses consciousness as being the backbone of everything in our reality. Consciousness comes before energy, consciousness comes before manifestation, so ultimately our consciousness is going to be the thing that allows us to realize ourselves in this reality. What's really interesting is that quantum science has even discovered that we're living 17 milliseconds behind what's actually happening. So what you just visualized right here on this video and what you see on a daily basis in your life is actually 17 milliseconds behind. So something happened prior and we're receiving all the information in this material sense with our consciousness. So when you really think about this process of us being 17 milliseconds behind, then our consciousness is literally creating our reality, and this is where quantum jumping and identity shifting really comes into play. And there's a lot of spiritual teachers that tell you how to evolve your consciousness or what to look out for, but this is exactly what you're going to experience as you go through the process, so you can keep like a check mark of everything that you're doing along the way. So if you're new to your spiritual awakening, the first thing that you're going to realize when it comes to your consciousness evolving is the fact that like you're going to be aware that you're different than other people, and this is a very large array of different possibilities that end up manifesting. You might realize that you're a starseed, you might realize that you're this ancient Egyptian pharaoh. There'll come all these different details that'll start supporting that you are not living a limited life, that you are experiencing something much more greater than just this lifetime. That's the first major limitation or experience that people have when they're having their spiritual awakening and their consciousness starts to evolve. The reason why this happens is because you have to become aware that you live in a holographic reality, or what people call the matrix. Now, there's a lot of spiritual teachers that will tell you that the matrix is evil and like you need to escape it. But the thing is, you came into this reality to master the matrix, because the matrix is a very specific level in the multidimensional frequencies of reality itself. So even though a lot of people are like, I want to escape the third dimension, I want to leave here and ascend, ascension is actually the process of mastering this dimension with all of your consciousness from every other dimension. It's like you're singularizing all of the parts of you into this lifetime, into a 0 point, basically, just like quantum science tells us. As this starts to become more apparent in your reality, you're going to realize that this is something you can't deny, and it starts showing you the separation between you and others. So suddenly you'll start having all these downloads about the cosmos and how it works and what you need to be expecting out of your life, and you can try to explain this to other people who have not reached your level of awareness, and they just won't get it. And this is where the second level of consciousness evolving comes into play. You end up feeling super lonely. The trick here is that loneliness is only an illusion, because technically if the ascended masters are everywhere around you, your spirit guides, you're connected to all of your past lifetimes, you're technically not alone. You're only perceiving the experience of being alone because you're not applying your multidimensional consciousness into the equation. And you'll end up seeing this with a lot of shamans. And you end up realizing that a lot of shamans don't really hang out with other people very often unless it's absolutely necessary. They're not ever alone, they're just hanging out with people or astral beings in other dimensions. So on this second stage, when you're dealing with the loneliness, it's more so that you feel whole with yourself and also whole with the structure of the matrix itself. So when you experience this second level of consciousness evolution, you have to realize that the loneliness is a point of self-mastery. It's happening so that you can feel whole with yourself, so that you can fortify your beliefs and you can see that you're not crazy. You're not living a woo-woo fantasy land. Like, you're actually living an alternate reality that other people can experience. And it also happens so that you can solidify the realness, your connection to astral beings, because a lot of people end up saying like, yeah, I believe in angels, yeah, I believe in spirit guides, but do they integrate those spirit guides into their daily life? Because if they don't, then you're gonna end up seeing those are the people who don't always get their manifestations, they're not always feeling like they're supported by the cosmos because there's a resistance. Faith and belief are limitations, they have to be knowing. Like, I know I'm making this video and I'm talking to you in real time beyond time and space. I'm not having a belief that I'm doing that, I'm not having a faith that I'm doing that. And even though I'm home alone right now, I'm not alone because I'm channeling with the cosmos talking to you right now. So even in this video, there's multiple versions of me, there are multiple spirit guides, and there are multiple different aspects of reality that are all communicating through this 0 point right now. And this is where a lot of people end up getting stuck. If you get stuck here, that's when you end up having a dark night of the soul, because the universe is trying to give you more and more evidence that you're beyond the threshold of the limitations you've been subscribing to your entire life. But just like a bunch of other like bills or emails, right? Like if you keep getting emails that you have this one bill, this one bill, this one bill, this one bill, and you ignore it, eventually collectors are going to come and eventually you might get put holds on your credit. The universe is no different. The universe will keep throwing you messages, emails. Hey, you need to change your life. Hey, you need to pay attention to this. Hey, you need to do that. And if you don't end up following through with it, or at least attempt to make the best with whatever messages you're coming with, then you're gonna end up feeling like a backup, almost like it's a bunch of toxins in the body or your spiritual body. And that's when people have the dark night of the soul. A great example of this is when I first got married. I ended up getting married to someone who was a complete narcissist, and I knew they were a narcissist before I got married to them. I kept getting all these different messages. I ignored each one of those messages until one day it all stacked up and the collection started coming for it. And that's when my entire life exploded. Like I went homeless, I had all these other horrible things happen to me, only because I chose not to listen to the communication of the cosmos while I was going through my consciousness evolution. And this is why a lot of people don't have the dark night of the soul, because they literally listened to the messages. We don't always end up perceiving these messages as like divine connection. It can just be an impulse that you have, right? Like an intuitive knowing, gut feeling, like I need to do this or I shouldn't do that, right? And if you follow it, regardless if you're aware that you're having cosmic downloads or not, or that it's coming from a spirit guide, you will avoid the dark night of the soul. And you can do this for literally anyone, especially if you're somebody who helps on the spiritual path with spiritual healing. You need to pay attention to the repetitive messages that are coming up to your clients so that you can help your client get out of the repetitive cycle so they can avoid the dark night of the soul. The most interesting thing about this part of the evolution of consciousness is that the loneliness comes and goes. It's always going to show up when you are giving your power away to other people and other things. So like I've definitely felt it in the last year where I was surrounded by a lot of like highly influential people, but I didn't feel in alignment with some of the things that they were doing or saying or living by. And then it slowly started changing my frequency and I became alone again. So I've had these moments of being like with a ton of powerful people and then suddenly being alone, and then being with those powerful people again in different settings and then being alone again. That's because whenever I feel like I need other people to find my success or my inner power, the universe forces me to focus on my wholeness and it disconnects me from others. I no longer look at me being by myself for an extended amount of time as a problem. I see it as part of the process, and it's happening because if I intermingle my power or my energy with other people, it's just going to end up causing more and more distortion over a long term of time, which is then not going to get me to the things that I want to be embodying. The third stage of consciousness evolution is when people usually start stepping into the law of attraction and they start stepping into manifestation. One of the things that you need to understand about this process is that law of attraction is level 1. It's understanding that you can create something in reality by summoning it from reality. But every time you summon something from reality, you are incorporating time and space. Now, time and space is not a problem. It's not the enemy, but it is a limitation. Time is a frequency, space is a frequency. And I know like we on our daily human lives don't perceive time and space as frequencies. They're actual literal things. Like there's space here, right? But if you think about the space between the camera and me as being a frequency, it's a bandwidth, okay? It's a vibration. There's only the vibration that creates the illusion that there's space between us. So when you're first using the law of attraction, like things like The Secret, you're going to end up realizing that you can call things forward, but you usually need a ritual, or you can call things forward and it might take some time, or you might call things forward and then there's tension with you and your reality so that you don't end up embodying a version of yourself that's not aligned with the thing that you want. So like sometimes when you're using the law of attraction, it'll show you you're not the person you want to be, and this is how you have to change to become that person. So it's like a step-by-step process, which of course will take time, and then it's a personal mastery thing because the universe can show you how to get to the place that you want, but it's not going to force you to get to where you want. It's not going to push you up the stairs. You're going to have to be like, okay, here's the staircase. This is what the universe is showing me. And you have to make your way up the stairs by yourself. The law of attraction is literally a trap because there's all these different modalities, all these different techniques that you can use in the law of attraction that literally will keep you in a hamster wheel. So you can journal forever, and then some people journal and don't end up getting their manifestation. They get closer to it, but they don't embody it. The reason why is because the actual manifestation is something that seems still far away. Like it might happen, but who knows when it's gonna happen. The more you journal, the more you affirm that. This is why I don't tell you to do like manifestation journal prompts. I tell you to do healing prompts instead. Like get to the core of why it is that you are not allowing yourself to experience something, and then that will shift reality for you. And the same thing will come with anything like affirmations, audio manipulations, whatever it is. You can energy heal a problem all you want, but if you don't get to the core of the reasoning as to why you are not accepting, letting go of the problem, you will continue to manifest the problem over and over and over again. And this is one of the things that a lot of energy healers and spiritual workers end up realizing with their clients is that you can help a client get out of a toxic relationship at their co-working space, but then if that person hasn't found the core of what it is that they're experiencing, then they're going to end up manifesting a relationship tension in their actual day-to-day life with their family or their spouse or something because the core wasn't addressed. So then all of this brings us to evolving from the law of attraction into manifestation. Manifestation is when you realize that whatever you choose to observe will manifest in your reality. A manifestation is an observation. You can observe me right now through this video, right? You can observe the whole entire YouTube platform. This is a manifestation because you can observe it, all right? So when you realize that you live in a holographic reality, your consciousness evolves to that level, right? And you understand that you're not alone, that you're whole, and that time and space is a limiter. So you're not actually using the law of attraction, you're just changing the way you look at things. That's when you start actually manifesting. Manifestation is easier when you want things to happen faster, but it is harder because you have to continuously remind yourself that you are evolved from the law of attraction. It's very easy to fall back into the traps of the law of attraction, of doing a ritual, of, asking the cosmos and praying and doing all this other stuff because it's outside of you. Manifestation is saying, okay, what choice am I going to put into the equation so that I can have that experience? And you can see this with any form of psychology, especially with hypnosis. If you go into a hypnosis session, they try to refocus your vision and refocus your observation on the win, on you being that exponential, YouTuber, or you feeling like you have the love of your life in your reality. So you have to be aware that whatever your subconscious mind is really focused on is the manifestation itself. That's where manifestation then evolves again in the levels of consciousness. And a lot of people have a problem with this next level because it means that if you're the one that's observing whatever experience you're having because you're holding on to the root cause of an issue, then that means your reality is exactly what you've been creating. Sure, you may not have the amount of money that you want, you may not have the amount of fame that you want, you may not have the relationship that you want, but you're the one that is observing that reality, which means you have chosen that reality. And a lot of times people are like, well, why would I want to be in the negative vibration all the time or missing out or lacking out? The universe doesn't really care about whether or not you're focusing on something positive or negative. It's only going to return to you what your observation is. So a great example is when I wanted to become more visible on my Instagram, because I was stuck at like 20,000 followers on Instagram for like the longest time, and I didn't know how to get past that. I realized that I had a problem being seen. I was afraid of being seen because when I had originally started my career and I created Quantum Reiki, the whole entire Reiki community came after me and was super mean, and it made me kind of just like disappear because people were attacking me for such a long time. And that's why I was struggling on my Instagram. So I had to find the core seed of the reason why I was experiencing 20,000 followers on Instagram alone, when I realized that it had to do with a problem of being seen, which means like I have a problem creating my manifestation, because if I want to be seen, I want to be manifested in other people's realities, right? Manifestation is an observation. So if that's the case, I want to be manifested in other people's reality, but I have a problem being manifested. How am I going to manifest that thing, right? So I had to get to the core of my wound and say, you know what? It is okay for me to be witnessed by others. It is okay for me to share my message, even though not everyone resonates with it. It's okay for me to be myself, regardless of if people like me or where this goes. The moment I started doing that, I started changing the way I looked at myself. I was afraid that I was going to get attacked, so I was looking at myself as somebody that needs to be protected from being attacked by others, and I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. The moment I said, okay, you know what? No matter what happens, I am always safe. I am always comfortable in my own reality. That's when my Instagram started blowing up out of nowhere, and now I'm almost at 100,000 followers on Instagram. Go follow me if you haven't been yet. But yeah, that's kind of like the way it works. You need to realize that every creation is happening because you are putting it into place, even though you may not know why you're creating this thing in the first place. Simultaneously, when you start getting into the law of attraction, manifestation, you start getting into healing. And then there's the healing trap. You can heal as much as you would like, but if you continuously acknowledge the problem, then you're continuously manifesting the problem. So I grew up with a tough childhood. I gotta heal that childhood. So you start healing the childhood, you start healing it, you see a bit of results, you become more confident, you become more happy, you become more like authentic with yourself, but you keep always remembering, I have to go heal that portion of myself because that's the trauma that I experienced. The more you keep owning the trauma, you will always have to come back to heal it. And even though it gets less and less and less in its impact, the fact that you're holding on to the seed will always be the focal point of what you're manifesting. And this is why energy healing, after, me doing it for over 25 years now, I don't energy heal people anymore. I shift people, because energy healing is always recognizing that there's a core wound that's creating their reality. By me being an energy healer and helping the person continuously revisit that seed to shift it out of reality, I'm not actually helping them. I'm reinforcing the illusion with the law of attraction and manifestation that you need to keep focusing on this. Shifting, on the other hand, is recognizing, yes, that story did happen. That story happened to a version of you. You can choose to be a different version of yourself if you give yourself the permission and you fully accept authentically that you can do that. And then this is where people start walking into quantum jumping, quantum shifting, timeline warping, all this other stuff, because they start realizing that the identity is the core reasoning for everything technically manifesting, right? Your identity is what's looking at something. One of the other ways that I did this was when I wanted to be with celebrities and I wanted to be a shaman for celebrities. I started saying I am the shaman of the shamans, and I allowed myself to fully embody that identity, which then timeline shifted me into those particular realities that I wanted to be with different kinds of celebrities. I didn't heal my wounds of, am I good enough to be with celebrities? I wasn't even trying to look back at what wounds from my childhood were creating the limitation. I allowed myself to just simply say, okay, I am the shaman of the shaman, and I am going to allow myself to live that life fully. The moment I started doing that, reality warped around me to give me what I wanted, and I started quantum jumping and quantum shifting. Quantum shifting is moving between like having reality basically move around you, essentially. So like if I am the sun, then everything revolves around me and changes around me. Quantum jumping is saying, I no longer want to be in this timeline, I'm going to be in the next timeline. The problem with quantum jumping, though, is if you're trying to escape one timeline into another because you're victimized, you will always come back to the previous timeline. So if I'm trying to leave this timeline right now because, oh my God, I'm unhappy and I have all these bullies and oh my God, I don't have enough money, I'm going to timeline shift. You will do it. You can do it, but it will always bring you back because you are trying to run away from something. It's kind of like a rubber band. You can pull the rubber band, but eventually when you let go of the rubber band, it's going to snap right back to its original place, right? So in order for you to actually quantum jump into another timeline, you need to be like, this is all okay. I'm whole. Remember, like that's one of the first lessons that you end up learning in your spiritual awakening. I'm whole. I'm not missing out on anything. This whole entire perception of everything is perfect. I just choose a different experience. I choose a different reality. No matter what, if my consciousness timeline jumps into another consciousness, the version of me that stays on this timeline is going to continue to have this experience. So all I'm doing is shifting my spirit from one location into another, but location doesn't exist either. So I'm changing, literally mind over matter. I am changing the way that my spirit interacts with time, or how my spirit interacts with my identity, or how my spirit interacts with the laws of the universe. And this is what I teach in my programs, which is like master the frequencies of the universe, and then you seem godly because you literally have them at your fingertips to create miracles for yourself and other people. So then after doing all of that, right? You end up realizing that the only thing that really is involved in this conscious evolution game is your spirit. Your spirit's the only real thing that's actually happening in real time. It's not the manifestations that you're creating. It's not the accomplishments that you achieve. It's not the certificates. It's not whether or not you feel satisfied with your life at the end of the day. You end up realizing that your spirit is the only thing that can change reality. And then once you realize that, you end up realizing that spirituality doesn't exist. And I made a video of this on Instagram. You can check this one out. I'll link it in the descriptions below. But a lot of people had a hard time accepting this video because I was saying like spirituality doesn't exist. Like spirituality is a vehicle to get you to a certain point of understanding. And when you get to that certain point of understanding, you're no longer spiritual because you're working with the laws of the universe. It's almost like you're working with nature. You don't look at trees and say, oh my God, that's so spiritual. You don't look at gravity. Oh my God, that's so spiritual, right? Like you just know that gravity exists. Trees are a part of life. So therefore, manifesting, bending reality, being the creator of your universe is just the way of life. It's not spiritual anymore. Spirituality is oftentimes confused with the definition, but once you really truly understand that spirit is all that there is, spirit comes before a definition. Spirit doesn't have a definition until people define it. Language is limited. That's why language evolves. That's why culture evolves, because people change. But what is the one consistent thing that everyone tries to understand, regardless of language changing, regardless of culture changing, regardless of time changing? Everyone wants to understand spirit because spirit does not have a definition. Spirit is an experience. So then suddenly, once you've gotten through all these different layers, and for a lot of people, it takes them years and years and years, 10, 20 years to go through all that stuff to get to where I'm at right now, telling you the secret sauce. Once you get to my point, manifestation no longer is a necessary thing to do. You don't need to manifest because that means that you're trying to control reality, which is a lot of your divine masculine saying, I'm not safe, I have to make something happen. I don't even quantum jump anymore on purpose. Like it happens by default. Like if I put my mind on something, if I say I want this thing to happen, I say it and then I know it's going to happen. Like I no longer even think about I gotta do this ritual, I gotta make sure that I do my affirmations, I gotta do all this, I gotta energy here. I don't do any of that. I just strictly know mind over matter. Spirit is everything. Spirit is waiting for me to acknowledge that I know how the dynamics of reality work, and then all I have to do is develop a relationship with spirit. That is not spiritual. Like, right? Like you don't enter a relationship with someone and say that's relational, right? You just have the relationship. And I think a lot of times we try to classify an experience with a definition, and all it does is limit us. And I've seen that in a lot of different practices. A lot of times people are like, I'm a light worker, but then you don't really understand the full dynamics of light because your perception on what a light worker is a bubble, a cage that doesn't let you evolve past that. And once you get to the levels where I'm at, where things just happen instantaneously, you're not really trying to create anything, that's when you know you've reached 5D. And that's when you know that you've reached a true ascended mastery. 5D is being authentic with everything that you're experiencing, right? And during this path, like a lot of times you're gonna notice that these things kind of echo each other, right? Like coming back to the seed of things, realizing that like everything is your mind. Like a lot of these messages regurgitate themselves. Like there's been years where I've practiced a one particular methodology, and then like 5 years later, it comes right back up just to kind of like remind me what I had learned previously, because time and space does not exist. Your experience in consciousness when it comes to consciousness evolution is not linear, okay? It's happening all at the same time. And that's why a download you had in 2019 will reappear in 2024 because of the fact that like you are living multiple timelines and you're downloading at different points in time in reality so that you can become the full level creator that you came here to embody. So then when you're going through this consciousness shift, you end up kind of having this weird idea that you have to pursue 4D. You're already in 4D. You don't have to pursue it. You just have to acknowledge that it's happening. People are then, oh my God, I want to become 5D. 5D is just you being authentic and authentically accepting everybody else for who they are. That's the hardest part of 5D is the fact that like you may not like Bob because Bob really annoys you and Bob is a shifty person and Bob takes advantage of people for his own gain. But if you're 5D, you recognize that's Bob's nature. And authentically, you don't resonate with Bob. So you're going to honor your energy, but you're not going to judge Bob for doing what he's doing because he is having an experience through Source, and Source wants to be that shifty version of itself. And all these different spiritual teachers really complicate the whole ascension of dimensions. Like 4D is recognizing that time and space is not real and actually forcing yourself to live that way as much as possible. 5D is acknowledging the authenticity, non-judgment of everything. There are shitty people in 5D. There are amazing people in 5D. There are evil people in 5D. There are positive people in 5D. There is no requirement of you being a good person to be in 5D. It's just whether or not if you authentically accept yourself as a shitty person being in 5D, right? Like if I know that I'm a mean person and I authentically accept myself fully for that, then I'm going to be in 5D, okay? And I'm going to be manifesting better than other people. That's why some evil people get everything they want because they're living in authenticity with themselves. 6D is acknowledging that you know everything. Privacy doesn't exist. And this is the hardest part for 6D people is like literally everything that you want to know is in the Akashic records. Everyone has aura. Everyone is telepathic. So at a 6D level, you start hearing thoughts and then you start realizing that what people are saying to you at face value is not the truth of what they're actually thinking or feeling. You end up realizing at 60 that sure, we have passwords and privacy protections on our computer, but if a shaman with enough awareness of the cosmos wants to look into your reality and see what you're doing, you cannot prevent that person from doing so. 70 is then acknowledging that everything is in harmony, that you have nothing to hide, that you're living in your full authenticity, that you're okay with, being beyond time and space. Then harmony starts to happen by default. And what's really funny is that even though I'm explaining this, it seems like you have to attain these different levels, but really they're all happening right now. Like right now you're 7D and you don't even realize it. But the reason why you're not experiencing 7D where things just randomly come to you out of nowhere and your life is harmonious is because you're not being authentic with yourself. You haven't acknowledged that you're beyond time and space and that you're still trying to hide a version of yourself from everyone else, which would be like this huge major limitation. At 60, if you're still trying to hold secrets, you can't be 5D. It's very simple, right? And I wish I could put everything that has to do with like consciousness evolution into one video. I don't really feel I can because the experience of consciousness evolution is a multidimensional facet. It is happening at so many different levels. It's happening at a micro scale. I'll give you one of my most recent spiritual awakenings. And that's the other thing. Like people think like you have one spiritual awakening, but you actually have multiple over your lifetime. Like you get to 5D and then you have a spiritual awakening of 60 and then you get to 60 and you're like spiritual awakening 70, right? And then you just keep opening up because you're infinity. You're in infinity. Infinity is always going to blow your mind. And some people who don't like surprises will have a hard time ascending because you need to be curious. You need to be an adventurer. You need to be an experimenter, a scientist, and allow the universe to perpetually surprise you with its wisdom and its experiences that you can have in real time right now. So you can spend a lot of time trying to navigate all this, reading a ton of books, doing a bunch of meditations, or you can go ahead and learn Antojai alchemy, which is going to literally accelerate you by default. You just learn these 5 simple steps and then suddenly, boof, your whole entire reality starts changing by default. You start existing at 5, 6, 7D, but it's only if you're serious and you want to be living that life because my students end up manifesting a ton of money. They end up manifesting the perfect relationships that they want. They end up manifesting way more than they even anticipated that they could manifest, like working with Netflix and stuff like that. But it's only if you're serious, if you're going to put the work in, because they're 5 simple steps, But if you're not ready to embody them, then you're going to be going in the hamster wheel trying to figure it out. So I've created that process for you, and I'm going to link it in the description below so that you can do it on your own if you're a self-paced person, or you can do it in one of my groups where I'm going to guide you with the rest of my coaches in a 3-month program so you can really embody the next level of your ascension. Let me know if this video really resonated with you, and what other tips have you learned with your ascension process that I could not obviously put in this video, because other people definitely should be learning from you as well. That's part of the whole ascension process, is fully stepping into your authentic expression. That's 5D. I'm sending you so much love. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share, because that helps the algorithm grow, and I'm sending you so much love.